The last time we talked about Amazon Game Studios, the company was struggling. Experienced developers were leaving the team, management out of touch with their workers and customers, and games not quite hitting the mark. While each game they released had some positives, none of them were able to break out commercially. But one game on their to-do list had some potential and presented some hope for the company moving forward. New World, a fantasy MMORPG set in the mid-17th century, which is loosely based on the European conquest of the Americas. Despite some early hiccups in the game's development, due to some unsavory themes and imagery, the overall quality of the game looked promising. After the beta, Amazon Games received quite a bit of feedback, and, wanting to do the right thing, they pushed back the game's release by a couple of months. On September 28th, 2021, New World was finally released globally. Unfortunately, it only took about 5 minutes before the game ran into its first big problem. On the release day, the hype surrounding the game was insane, and the player count peaked at just over 700,000 unique players on day one. While that would make any developer happy, the problems were immediately noticeable, as the game's servers were simply unequipped to handle that many players at once. The result was insanely long queue times.
What is this?
It just takes a minute. It took me a minute too, man.
I mean,
I had to wait like 10 minutes before I actually got in the queue. I played D2. Oh, damn!
Amazon Games quickly responded with an update on Twitter saying, quote, "We understand that some players are experiencing lengthy queue times, and we are working hard on a few things to help address these issues. To ensure everyone can find an open world now, and also finding a home in Eternum with their community long-term, we'll offer an opportunity in the next 2 weeks for all players to relocate their characters to a new server of their choice at no cost." While Amazon Games was quick to respond to the issue, servers were the least of their worries. While the game had potential with some very fun endgame PvP content, there was still quite a bit of criticism regarding things like the lack of minimaps and lazy map design overall. On top of this, many of the quests were insanely repetitive, and it was just flat out boring trying to grind to the endgame content. To top it all off, there was a long list of bugs. Like, a very long list. And these bugs affected everything from gameplay to stability to the game's economy. With any big MMORPG, the economy of the game can end up being just as important as the game itself. In some cases, a game's currency is even sold for real-world money, and New World is no different. As such, anytime a new game releases, there almost certainly will be players looking to abuse the economy and make a quick buck. For the most part, New World was dealing with some pretty typical issues for an MMORPG. Bots farming resources, people spamming all chat to promote their products, and the occasional account scam. But Amazon Games cracked down on these issues very quickly, and players also did their part to help out. However, the bots were the least of Amazon's problems, as major bugs and exploits forced the developers to pause the game's economy on 2 separate occasions. The first came when players discovered that they could type out HTML code in chat to perform some pretty interesting functions. While some people were using it to post pictures of sausages, some were straight up kicking other players from the servers. But the worst use of this exploit came when some players began spamming codes that gave themselves gold. This was done by spamming code that tricked the game into thinking that they had just obtained a quest item. If they had just obtained a quest item, the game thought that the player had completed a quest and rewarded them with gold. Amazon Games quickly responded by disabling, quote, "all forms of wealth transfer," and warned that they would punish any players who abused the exploit.
They probably don't even know how it works. Well, yeah, I think that's the issue, right? Is you have devs who are trying to figure out and explain systems that were coded by people who got fired 6 months ago.
Passive aggressive.
So they're like doing this on the fly, right? The players are like, "Hey, how does this work?" And the devs are like, "Good question, let me go find out."
Unfortunately, shortly after the HTML exploit was fixed, another bug was quickly discovered that forced Amazon Games to pause the game's economy yet again. This time around, players were duplicating trophies that would usually be acquired through achievements. What made these trophies special is that they provided passive benefits when placed in a player's house. Due to the influx of trophies into the market, trophies that were originally selling for 40,000 gold were heavily devalued, being sold for only 10,000 gold instead. some in the community were rightfully upset, with another huge exploit affecting the economy so quickly after the HTML exploit. But as with all other issues that have plagued the game, the developers quickly responded and took action to the best of their abilities. It's a shame that something as simple as basic communication with your fans is enough to garner you praise in this day and age, but their transparency and willingness to grow shows that Amazon Games could have a lot of potential moving forward. But still, New World is facing an uphill battle to stay afloat in a stacked MMORPG market. Since its release, the game's player base has been on a steady decline as a result of all the bugs and issues and lack of engaging gameplay. While Amazon Games is doing their best to fix the game, New World has to compete against titans of the genre: World of Warcraft, Final Fantasy XIV, Phantasy Star Online. To top it all off, Amazon is publishing another MMO in the near future. Lost Ark is an MMORPG that has been out in Korea for quite some time, and Amazon is the company publishing it to the rest of the world. Unlike New World, Lost Ark is a finished product, which has years of testing and great reviews from fans of the game. To say the least, New World is going to face some serious competition moving forward. But like we said in our last video, after their initial failures, Amazon finally has some game development experience under their belt. Although they might have bitten off more than they could chew in taking on an enormous game like New World, they've got a lot of things going for them.
I think one thing that's good about this game is it allows players to have an impact on the world with like cutting down trees and actually changing their environment based off of their actions. And I think that's a very good thing.
The MMORPG market is cutthroat, where only the best of the best games survive. And for their debut MMO to garner so much support and attention, and to deal with criticism in a transparent manner, the future looks pretty bright for Amazon Games Studio. What do you think of New World? Has Amazon Games been dealing with it pretty well? Was Amazon too ambitious, trying to take on an MMORPG for their first title? Or is New World a pretty good game that faced some problems but is gonna thrive in the near future? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. This video is made possible thanks to our wonderful patrons. Massive thank you to everyone on this list, and shout out to Jason, B, Brendan, QB, Foxy, Mauve, Sierra, Shampoo, Weeaboo, and Spartacus for being platinum supporters. And an extra special shout out to Steven, Noodles, and Marco for being diamond supporters. Thank you all, and happy holidays. Be sure to check us out on Instagram, link in the description. If you want to support our channel and get info on unreleased videos, check out our Patreon. If you want to help us out in a different way, leaving a like, subscribing, and hitting the bell to stay up to date is also appreciated. My name is Jonah, thanks for watching.